So I was swimming with my cousin out in Puget Sound, and TS got scared, and he was a little stronger than I was. You know what he did? He grabbed on me, and he climbed on top of me. Now, you know what happened to me? It's the scariest time, isn't it? All right.
I had a life jacket.
You okay? But I didn't have a life jacket on. But, so I think God kind of gave some instruction. It was really interesting because he was climbing. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't breathe or anything, right? So we started to go down, and I realized I could feel my feet touching the ground. So I said, okay. So I let my knees buckle, and then I jumped with everything I could. So he's on top of me, right? And I jumped up high enough that I could take a breath, and then I settled back down. So I started jumping up and trying to get us so if you can picture, he's on top of me, right? And so I'm jumping, take a gulp down, and we were able to bit by bit get back to shore. So if you think about that, when something terrible is happening, like you've got your cousin on top of you and you can't breathe, right? We have to figure out. And so the secret was that refractory, getting that chance to take a breath of air and then go down and relax into it, come out, knowing that I can jump up again and get another breath of air. When you can kind of relax into that, go and then come up and go down, come up and go down. Sometimes when you have something very bad happening to you, it's almost like you would die literally if you couldn't do something like this. So if you'll think about, I've got to figure out a way to take a breath of air, and I still sink down, and it's still a problem. But then spring up, take another gulp of air, and down. So in our
When I was choking, Charlie had to take me to the emergency.
Yeah.
They put me on a machine.
that would let you breathe and so forth. Yeah, because it's
Ventilator.
yeah, it's really, it can be, and when breathing it's one of the hardest things because you only have a few minutes, and we all know this instinctively. Like if we get smothered or something like that, nothing scares us quite like not being able to breathe. And if you think about essentials of life, we're enjoying food, right? How long could we go if we didn't have any food to eat? 3 weeks, yeah, 40 days, 50 days, somewhere like that, right? Depending on what all you're doing. How long could you go without water?
3 days.
Not as long, huh? In fact, people who are lost, they drink their own urine and all these sorts of things to survive sometimes because they kind of recycle it. And it's because it's so critical that we have fluid. Well, how long can you go without oxygen? A number of minutes, right? Depending on the things that factor how cold you are and some things like that. But let's say 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 minutes, something like that without brain damage at least. All right. How long can you go without nerve supply? Zero. Do you realize it's impossible to live? Because, I mean, if you think about this, if I were to cut off the nerves, now the terrible thing is you do like a guillotine or something, it would have to be something very bad to cut off all the nerves all at once like that. But if you think about the nerve to your heart, if it stops and your heart beats, you can't live, right? It's so crucial. And in our bodies, the nerves often don't function like just an on and off. Usually it's more like a dimmer switch. And what I find is people's bodies, if we're starting to lose this vital nerve energy that bathes and keeps our organs functioning, then our body just starts to wind down. We start to not have such good resistance to disease. We start to get tired all the time. We don't sleep as well. We have more arthritic types of problems. And often what at the root of it is a diminished nerve flow. And one of the reasons I think chiropractic is so powerful is it helps restore the nerve flow in our body. So that's what we've got to do. Now, I have a couple articles here about wound healing, and I thought this was really interesting. I think instinctively we know, do you realize that if you're under a stressful situation that your cells in your body will not function as well as if you weren't, right? Mm-hmm. So here is a study. We learn more about the medical connection between the mind and the body every day, and a new study demonstrates. Dental doctors and a psychologist at Ohio State University teamed up to see how everyday psychological stress affects wound healing. They punctured the palates of dental students to create a wound during their summer vacation, so the roof of their mouth, and then again a few days before a test during the semester. So over the summer, the wounds healed within 8 days. Do you know how long it took that wound to heal when they were right before they were taking a test? 11 days. So the stressful situation changed how well the wound healed. Now, do you think that applies to how quickly you get over, like if you have a subluxation or a problem in your back? you realize that, and so when we start to realize this, that it's part of my responsibility is to adjust you. But another thing, why we're having this class is I need to challenge you to say, all right, in your body, what are the things that you need to take responsibility for in terms of the stress in your life and things like this? Now, we're going to ultimately then, we have to think about each one of us has to take an inventory of our lives. And we have to say, what are the things that we are doing? And are we trying to do more than is possible physically? Are we kind of putting ourselves in a stressful situation that doesn't allow? Yeah, and really, and now from the talk here, we're talking not just whether it's stressful, but do I have any spaces in my life for a refractory period, right? You understand? So we can still do a lot of things. We can still have a packed schedule. For instance, what I have learned when I'm driving my car, I'm a fairly driven person. And if you were to follow me in a car, let's say 10 years ago, I would have been one of these guys, as soon as the light turns green, in fact, I would anticipate that light turning green sort of thing, so I can just get going, right? What I've had to realize is, in my life, the time in my car often is the only time I have to relax. Because I'm going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing.
And then home.
And then home. And so what I've realized, oh, wait a minute here. That means if I'm going to have the ability to do a bunch of things, I have to be relaxed in my car. It can't be a time of stress for me. So what I do now is so if you look at my body, I would hold my legs here. I would be driving like this. I realize that if my tummy is relaxed and I'm breathing, my legs flop out to the side. So if I'm in my car and my legs aren't, this leg has to hit the console, and this leg has to rest on the door. If I will do that, that sounds stupid, but you understand that it is one of those things that my physique and that I can make a change in my whole how I think about driving, and I don't care. And if somebody wants to go, I'll catch up with them at the next stoplight. I come to realize, trying to be antsy and get it going, you don't get farther ahead anyway. So I've been able to figure out how to take that time, and instead of being...
Or you try to go harder, though.
That's right. And why get upset? It has to be, it's my refractory time, right? That's the thing, right? I can't control all the things that I'm trying to juggle in my life, but I can control these times and carving out these times. And so you have to look at your life and say, where are the times in my life that I can make a refractory period? And how do I do this? And it might be music. And if you understand that you love certain styles of music, you like certain foods, you like to drink tea, like Rachel, the gal, I was giving her a bad time because she had a Starbucks cup. Well, it wasn't Starbucks coffee, it was tea, it was chai tea. And it was her, so for her, that is something relaxing when she drinks a cup of tea. So we need to have things in our lives that are relaxing, that we can introduce to a busy life, that you can count on, that will be a time to reduce the level of stress in your life. So here's another